And welcome to Wise Up on Air, hands on today with the integrations. Welcome, Benoit,
Hello.
Victor. It's good to see you.
Hi.
Yep.
Hey, so glad to have you along for the ride today. Life is exciting, and I'm so glad to be here today. Why don't you take a moment and introduce yourselves before we get off to the races with all of the cool integration stuff?
Right. So, hello everyone. I'm Ben. I've been with Audiokinetic for 10 years. Started working on integrations, then alone, then founding a team, and now here we are 10 years later with very cool stuff to show you today.
And hi, I'm Victor. I'm with the integration team for a bit more than 2 years now. And I worked on a lot of stuff introduced in 23.1, so that's why I'm here to talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've got a full lineup today. We're going to talk about features in 23.1. We're going to talk about some of the really exciting stuff that is out there publicly for folks. We're going to go hands-on with a demo. And why don't we just jump into the overview that you've got and get this show on the road?
Yep.
Cool.
All right. So, we'll talk about a few things that went live in the past year, because we're a special team here at Audiokinetic, and we are allowed to release big features outside of the normal release cycle. So it's always good to remind ourselves what we worked on in the past year. Then we're gonna talk about Unity Enter Play Mode options. So just a quick reminder of what we've implemented in 23.1. And then we're going to talk about our new gyms, which is a project that allows a lot of things, testing, samples, all that. We'll see that later. And finally, a peek into the future, what's coming up for our team. So, going back in time, you might have seen a few blogs go by, a bit of chatter on socials. We've actually partnered with Epic on that one to work on AudioLink, which is a way to feed Unreal audio through Wwise. So if you ever ask yourselves, meta sounds look really, really cool, but I don't want to give up Wwise, then there's your solution. You could create cool meta sounds and then feed them through Wwise using AudioLink, and you get the best of both worlds. So I recommend looking at that blog called Adventures with AudioLink. PDX went really, really crazy with it. There's a downloadable demo that you can open up in Unreal and see for yourself. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, it was cool. He gave a presentation on work that he did overviewed in that blog at Game SoundCon last fall, and just took people through it on a journey. We hope that makes it to some folks at some point. And meanwhile, that blog is a great resource, along with our combining Unreal 5 and Wwise audio with AudioLink blog. So those links are dropping into the chat. And if folks have questions, we're happy to bring those to the integrations team today. So just feel free to let us know as we're going along if we need to clarify something. And yeah, AudioLink, best of both worlds, right? A collaboration between Wwise and Unreal. Just a great way to move forward as a community. So nice work.
Yep. Then we implemented in the past year the Wwise browser, which is an improvement upon the venerable coalesce all of that information into one handy window where you know what's up with your Unreal assets, with your Wwise project, with your Soundbanks, and the even cooler thing we did there is reconcile. So everything we show you that's out of sync or not working correctly in that browser window, click that handy reconcile button you see in yellow here, and we'll show you a list of actions that will be undertaken to fix those issues. So it really is a handy way of making sure everything is in sync, ensuring that information is the same in all the places that it needs to be, without the need to manually keep everything in sync.
Yeah, so Wise Browser is just a really consolidated way to get clarity about the connection between Wise and Unreal. So great surfaces just visibility across the two engines. And then Reconcile, showing you places where things are out of sync, showing where there's opportunities for fixing, and providing you with that ability to make the magic happen.
Yep.
Great. Question
Right.
coming back from our AudioLink. Is there additional overhead when using AudioLink compared to a standard audio event?
Well, there's always buffering involved, right? When you connect audio systems together, there has to be a bit of buffering. So that being said, we have plans on improving the solution and improving the synchronization between both game engines, between both audio engines, actually.
Yeah, it's worth noting that spinning up a meta sound has its cost as well. So you'll have to take things like that into account, because it's a whole other thing over there.
Right. And I mean, you also pay like I'm not sure about the definition of overhead, if you meant actual audio delay or just like CPU usage, but of course with AudioLink you got two full audio engines running at the same time.
Yeah.
So there's always that bit of overhead. And also I just want to point out that what happens in Unreal stays in Unreal. So unfortunately, you won't be able to use the coolness of the Wise profiler to understand what's going on the Unreal side.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Another comment coming in regarding AudioLink. We tried to set it up. It was working perfectly in Editor, but we couldn't build our test project. It was building anytime we removed the AudioLink setup. But do you have any suggestions for regarding building with AudioLink in UE 5.3 and Wise 2023?
My answer might be a bit disappointing, but it should just work. If it works in Editor, it should work in a packaged game. I'd say just ensure that your Soundbanks are really properly generated, that you have a clean build when you package your project. And if all else fails, you can always submit a bug report through the Wise Launcher and we'll have a look at it. But usually, yeah, if it works in Editor, it should work everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's generally true. And again, you mentioned the bug reporter in the Audio Kinetic Launcher. Always feel free to drop that to us. We're looking for those opportunities to help bridge those gaps and make it easier. So when you find something like that, let us know.
Yep.
Nice. Okay.
All right.
Thanks for the questions.
Moving on. So new in 23.1, it was long awaited, but unfortunately required quite a significant refactor of our Unity integration. But we finally support the infamous Unity Enter Play Mode options. For those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about right now, Unity introduced a few versions back ways to essentially speed up entering play mode. In legacy Unity versions, a lot of stuff had to happen when you pressed that play button in your editor. It had to reload all of your C# scripts. It had to reinitialize everything. And now Unity allowed you to disable all of that reloading with a bit of tweaking to your scripts. And the bit of tweaking turned out to be a major feature for us to support. So there are various ways of handling enter play mode. So as you can see in that table here, so that option here, domain reload, is a Unity option in your project settings. If you turn it on, Unity will reload all of your scripts and everything in your game when you press that play button. So iteration times are slower. When you turn it off, it goes faster. So that's the first axis here. And then we introduced a new option in the Wwise integration settings called Load Sound Engine in Edit Mode, which allows you to decide whether you need to have a working sound engine while you are not playing the game in the editor. So you are adding objects to your scene and all that, and you want to preview a sound, you need a sound engine, you would turn that option on. If you don't really care about that, you can leave it off. And then the combination of those options has various behaviors. So every time you have domain reload on, we don't really have a choice but to terminate and reinitialize the Wwise Sound Engine on game transitions. So when entering or leaving play mode, we have to tear down and reinitialize the sound engine. The biggest way you will notice that is if you are remote connected using Wwise authoring, you will lose your connection when you transition. So with domain reload off and sound engine in edit mode on, you don't have that disadvantage. So we initialize the sound engine once at editor startup, and you get the same Wwise sound engine session for the entire duration of your Unity editor session. Meaning you can connect Wwise once, enter play mode, exit play mode, re-enter, and you will never lose your Wwise remote connection. So it's a fun thing to play around with. It's especially interesting because it significantly improves iteration times with the Unity editor. So I highly recommend you play around with those options if you are on 23.1.
Nice. And iteration times is something that we're always driving towards, faster iteration times, because we know that the more you can iterate on something, the less friction between those iterations, the better result you can arrive at.
Yep, more on that later in that live stream.
Nice.
All right, and now the pièce de résistance of our session today. I have Victor with me because the gyms are his baby. It was actually, we hired Victor as an intern 2 years ago, and we assigned him the task of simplifying testing of the integration and also making sample content more self-contained. Like right now, we provide the Wwise demo game with the integration, which is just one sample map with like lots of little demo stations to showcase how to use RTPCs, sequencer, external sources, etc., etc. There's a lot going on in that scene, and you can get a bit lost if you don't know where to look for. Gyms essentially make piecemeal samples of like just setting an RTPC, just posting an event. So I'll let Victor expand on that.
Yep. So, well, as you said, a gym is a simple scene, most basic thing possible, so that for example, the post event gym is just a button. You press it, a sound plays, the end. And with that as well comes a lot of testing features with it, so we can test the feature specific in that scene. So, as we said, it can be used to teach new features, since it's the simplest way to do them. It's easy to just open the gym, see what it can do, and then you can do it on your own if you want to, or just copy it. That's fine. And with the test, well, we use it on our end to make sure that we don't break stuff. But if you have a custom integration for Unreal or Unity, you can get the gyms and run it with your integration to make sure that all the tests there are fine. So you make sure that you don't break stuff accidentally, even if you don't want to. So that's a big use for that. They are currently available on our GitHub under the gyms project. It's fairly simple.
Yep.
You can just
it's publicly available. It works with our free license, so you don't need to nag us to get a license to just be able to generate the Soundbanks. There are less than 200 medias in that project, so that you can just clone Git and get up and running.
So yeah, well, as I said, we're using the gyms internally to validate what we do. We don't break things, and when we work on new features, we try to make gyms for them as well. We're currently working on adding platform support, so we can run them on any platform that we want and run the tests on them as well. And we will allow support requests if you find a bug, and you can forward the gym to our support, and we will have that. So it's an easier way for us to find the problem and solve it.
Right. So if you find a bug in our integration, the gyms will be a very useful environment to set up a simple reproduction case. And then afterwards, you can just create a pull request on GitHub, send that over to our awesome support team, and we'll get up and running that much faster to actually solve your issue.
And then we will never have that issue again.
Exactly. Because it becomes a test.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic description and overview of gyms and how we hope to use them alongside the community moving forward. Really, it's, we're always trying to bring greater stability to folks, their workflows, and the workflows when they're extending what we provide, right? You mentioned developers out there who will take our integrations and expand it, make it work the way that they need it to for their production. And as they upgrade across versions of Wwise, ensuring that that integration continues to work, well, that's a big part of what gyms is for.
Yep. So, enough chit chat. It's demo time.
Oh yeah.
First things first, let me show you. So, you can go on our website, on our GitHub actually. So, AudioKinetic/gyms. You got everything here. You got instructions on how to get up and running. You can so you just get that code, git clone, and you're up and running. And now, because we're like a cooking show, that's already done. So setup is already here. So at the root, you got Unity, which contains the Unity project. You have Unreal, which contains the Unreal project. And you've got the Wwise project, which is the same for both engines. So that's the neat thing. You get one Wwise project for both engine projects, and the goal really is to have everything in both places. So if you want to know the difference between how to post an event in Unreal versus Unity, you can open the post-event gym in both engines at the same time and look at what the differences are. Spoiler alert, you better know C# in Unity. So Wwise project is all here. Everything is organized with common assets. We have assets specific to some tests. Just be wary that some assets are generated by a Python script. The setup steps are documented here, but we have stress test gyms that essentially load a lot of assets at the same time, just to ensure that everything works correctly and we still manage to work in stressful conditions. So we used NumPy to generate some waves that are maybe not very pleasant to listen to, but that do the job for testing purposes. So they're all imported in the Wwise project here. You've got your events, everything typical to a Wwise project. And then if I jump into Unity directly, let me show you. So let me make that a bit bigger. So project is organized in a bit of a similar way. So you got the common assets we use. So we've got our materials, our prefabs, common scripts that are useful for most gyms. And we have our main menu, which is, as the name says, sorry, Zoom getting in the way. It's just listing all of the gyms that are available in the project right now. You can navigate that menu and just, I want to see how I post an event, enter. So you get that demo here. and you press a button, it posts an event. We told you it's very simple. No textures, no fluff, nothing, just the bare bones. If you want to go look behind the scenes of that post event gem, you can scroll a bit further down in the gems folder, and then they're organized by category. So you got very important ones, simple, advanced, spatial audio, editor specific, and testing. So tests don't showcase anything. They're there to ensure we don't break anything. So I wanted to know how post event works. I can just open that level and have a look around. So for example, here, we posted the event using a script.
Yep.
So we have a script here that we assigned an event to. And if you want to see how that works, well, the script is right next to the Unity scene. Open that up. I should have done that before the stream, but should be fine. Yep. And then you can have a look at what we needed to do to play that sound. Essentially posting a aka.wise.event. So this is how it's set up for every single gem. So you got the scene, you've got scripts. For some more complicated gems, let's say I want to see how I play a sound for an animation. Well, you got the scene, the scripts, the animations, the meshes needed for that animation, and everything needed. So everything is self-contained. You only need to look in one place, and it works correctly. Maybe you want to show us how to run the tests?
Yes, great. So I'm just gonna specify a bit. The main menu is built in the same way as inside the gems folder. So so if you know where it is from the main menu, you can find it within the gems folder fairly easily. In the case of Unity, it's a bit different because there are the gems folder and the test folder, which on the inside are the same hierarchy. It's just that in the test folder, they are the test, and on the gems folder, it's the demo. So all the tests are stored there. If you want to run them, you can go to Windows, General, and then there's Test Runner, which will open this little window. And then in the Play Mode section, they're all there. So if we want to run, let's say, post event 1, you can just double click that. It's green, we're good, everything's fine.
Yep.
Nice.
And what if I'm reproducing a bug and I would like to create a gem?
Great. So we have this little tool called the Gem Creator. You can open it. In this little text box, you enter the path from inside the gems folder. So if I want to create a simple post event, for example, and it will create under gems/post event, and the scene will be there, and the test will be created as well. After that, it's what type of scene you want it to be. So if you want an empty scene, just a plain and empty plane, a single button, or a button that can trigger on and off. So you can select which one you want. So we'll do a simple button for that one. We can create an exit. You have to wait for everything to be created and reload the domain and all that stuff. So if we go inside, once the domain will be reloaded, good. We have the post event with the scene. So it's a little button like that.
Nice.
And if we want, for example, posting an event, so we can add a bank. Let's say the default one. And then we add an AK event. That will be an event, for example. And then in the button, we have this function right here, so we can just drag it and AK event and all event with itself, for example. And we have to make sure to disable the trigger. So if we start, the button plays, and that's how you create a gem. And at the same time, in Unity, it's kind of boring because tests are just C# scripts. It's not super interesting to look at, but there is a script and the little test object you can add that will be added to the scene that runs the test, so you can add little components you want. In that case, it just has a game object and a bank that gets loaded at the start.
Yep.
Nice.
So
Well,
that's
that was fast.
showing how it works in Unity. We'll also, yeah. Sorry, Damien. Go ahead.
I mean, that was fast. That was game audio on fast forward. We're getting a gold star from the chat for unit testing, so congratulations on that. And it just seems like a great way to move forward with understanding these concepts, as well as being able to repeatably reproduce the results of those and validate that everything is working as it should.
Yeah, just wanted to add a little clarification though. Tests as shown in the gyms here are more of an integration test. So you kind of need the whole machine to be up and running to be able to run them. We're also working on implementing unit tests. We already started in Unreal. We're going to start soon in Unity. But yeah, we're going to have both kinds of tests. So both unit/functional testing and integration testing.
Nice.
Anything else to show in Unity?
I think that's good.
All right. And now it will look very similar. Let's go to Unreal. You got a very cool logo and splash screen. Thank you, marketing team.
Yeah.
And then here you go. It feels very similar. You can see here in my content browser, we've got our common assets, and then we've got our gyms with the folder hierarchy. If I go to here, same thing as in...
It's already open.
Oh, yeah, same thing as in Unity. Let me make that a bit bigger. We can navigate our gyms and say, oh, how different is it? So, well, in Unreal, there's clouds, but no sound. Of course, we tried it 5 minutes before the demo, but yeah, fairly similar. The big difference between Unreal and Unity is in Unreal, we'll also see now I opened the post-event test. It's organized the same way. Most of the action happens, you guessed it, in the level blueprint. So there's a little bit more boilerplate to get that button working. But you can see here that on begin play, I bind something to my button, and then I post the event, and then stop the event playing. And then there's another section in that blueprint which are for the functional tests, which are neatly organized in a separate function so as not to pollute the level blueprint itself. Same thing. So I'll once again hand it away to Victor.
So to create gyms on the Unreal, it's pretty much the same thing. So you can just go into the gym creator, create it. We'll do the exact same thing. Select a simple button. We can create it. It's done. It's there. And we said the old boilerplate thing to have it working. The template does it for you. So you can just, for example, post an event. That one. Bind into the actor and select the ambient event. Save. And you can press it. Well, we don't have sound for probably the same reason. We don't know why. As we said, we tested it 5 minutes before the live stream. It was fine.
Nice. Okay. But...
Right. And same thing for automated testing,
yep.
Right?
So, well, I'll just highlight that as well. The function of test is already created. It's empty. You can add all the tests you want there. And if you want to run tests locally, you can go into Tools, Test Automation, and inside the project folder, there are the functional tests. And unlike in Unity, they copy the hierarchy, so it's a bit easier to find. And let's say if we run that one, it's green. It's
Yeah.
good.
So one thing you're wondering, it says the test passed, but we don't hear any sound. So what the gyms actually test is the integration. We don't test the sound engine part of Wwise. We already have our trusty RoboQA to do that. Essentially, what we want to know is the integration sending the correct API calls to Wwise? So we don't particularly care what happens on the other side of that fence because we already have a hefty test suite for that side. So that's why maybe even though, so that tells me that all of the API calls were made correctly, but something happened on the other side for no sound. We should go look on the Wwise SDK side maybe, or just maybe a setup problem of some sort.
Yeah.
So it's a good precision to add there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm not sure what's preventing the sound, but it's clear that the integration side of it is been validated from the test. These gyms are great. Again, whether you're looking at them as a developer, as a way to ensure that changes you make to the integration continue to work across updates, or whether you're just out there wondering, hey, how do I do this thing? They're really bite-sized implementations of features between Wwise and our game engine integrations, where you can really just see, hey, what does it take to post an event? Or how do I update an RTPC on a game object? All of these, pieces that come together to build a game. Well, sometimes you just need to understand one thing in order to get you where you're going, and gyms are a great place for that.
Yep, as long as you can stomach a bit of spaghetti. Blueprint being blueprint. Yep.
Well, they make gluten-free pasta now too, so I think there's spaghetti for everyone out there.
Yeah,
we'll find our way. Excellent
right.
work on gyms, like a really great new suite of tools for folks out there in the community. Excellent work.
Now we're gonna do a public service announcement for another team. In 23.1, we've added experimental support for live media transfer. What that means is you can actually play around with your audio sources, your WAV files in your Wwise project while remote connected to your game, and they will be sent to the game and audible. So that, once again, we were talking about iteration times earlier, and I said we were coming back to it. Well, here we are. Before that feature, you basically had to disconnect Wwise from the game, import your WAV, regenerate your Soundbanks, ensure that your game engine picked it up, play the game, and then you could hear the changes. No more. It's a huge change that has impacts everywhere in our core sound engine, which is why it's taking a significant effort to get across the finish line. But we're very, very, very eager on getting your feedback on it. So we've exposed it as an experimental feature in 23.1 because we know it's a bit rough around the edges, but we think the benefits are there. And which is why if you are curious about that, we encourage you to try out the feature, knowing that there might be bugs. If you encounter any weird behaviors, be sure to turn it off before reaching out to us. But we're also looking for feedback on that. So that's why we send out that PSA here. And just to show you that it actually works, let's try it out. So we didn't have sound in Unreal, so all right. That didn't work. I don't really like that weapon sound, so let me just go in Wwise, connect to my game. I don't really like that shotgun fire sound, so I'll add something else. How about a seagull? right? Let me drag and drop that. So see, before live media transfer, this was forbidden. I dragged and dropped a WAV file while remote connected. So I import that. I'm using it. Go back to Unreal. Here are my seagulls. See, I didn't have to restart Plane Editor, didn't generate Soundbanks, nothing. 2 seconds, I have my new sound.
Beautiful.
Now, the magic happens in your user preferences all the way at the bottom here in that live media transfer box over here. So we encourage you to try it out knowing that, here be dragons maybe. So, I mean, if you're 2 weeks away from shipping, I don't recommend turning it on, but it's still a huge, huge help for iteration times when you're working on your source material. And so
early results are good. Like we've gotten some early feedback of folks who flipped the switch and they're out there doing it, along with some feedback through the bug reporter when it fails. And all of that goes towards building the most stable release of this feature in the future. So definitely drop us a line and let us know either way. Like, did it speed up your workflow? Are you really feeling the power of, closing the loop on that iteration time? And, if you run into some trouble, you can drop into the Audiokinetic launcher and report a bug. Certainly share it with the Wwise community Q&A, your successes and obstacles. If you're working on a game and blocked by something, certainly support is there to help unblock you. In the case of this experimental feature, it's not as applicable. We expect that it'll be a little bit buggy for a while, but when it does release, it should have stabilized. And meanwhile, if you have downloaded 23.1, jump in and take the survey. Let us know how we're landing with those features out there in your workflows. We're interested to get a better understanding of how these land and how you're using them. So drop us a line.
Right. So that's it for 23.1 in recap. What's next? So what's coming very soon? So next patch for 23.1.1 and 22.1.10, we are finally ready to go live with our Niagara support. And the interesting thing about that Niagara implementation is it's a completely separate plugin. So it's actually wiseniagara.u plugin in Unreal. And we did not have to modify a line of code in the Wwise integration itself. So it really sits on top of the Wwise plugin, and it allows you to do pretty much anything Unreal Audio that can be done with Unreal Audio and Niagara. You'll be able to do it with Wwise as well. So you got one-shot sounds, you got persistent sounds. You can tie that to particles. So it's a really nice implementation. So that's coming very soon. I don't want to venture a precise date, but be on the lookout for it. And then looking a bit further away. So in our next major release, we're planning on bringing auto-defined soundbank support in Unity. So we did our first implementation in Unreal, worked out the kinks, and see what works. And now we're ready to bring that into Unity so that you can finally stop manually assigning events to soundbanks. You can just use the power of autobanks and not worry about, drag and dropping thousands of events all the time. So that's going to be a huge improvement to your workflow.
And if you're just hearing about auto-defined soundbanks, we have a ton of information out there about it. It was a feature that we released as part of Wwise 22.1. It's continued to evolve, and really, as Benoit said, attempts to usher in a future where you don't have to manually manage soundbanks unless you want to. And that feature starts inside of Wwise authoring. You're making decisions about how your assets are created either automatically based on events or manually using Soundbanks, and then propagating out to a game engine that can then manage those resources or manage those assets on an as needed basis, depending on what's loaded and unloaded. So a tremendous feature that came out in 22.1, first in our Unreal integrations and coming soon to the Unity integrations, so that everyone can bask in the beauty of Soundbank. What would we call it? Soundbank not management? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And once again, iteration times.
Yeah.
Next, we're gonna, same as auto-defined soundbanks. So we implemented the Wwise browser in Unreal. Got feedback from many customers. Thank you to the customers that submitted some feedback. And now, with those iterations done, we're also ready to bring the Wwise browser to Unity. It's going to be a bit different than in Unreal, because in Unity you don't really have to manually manage your Unity assets representing Wwise objects, but we're still going to bring the goodness to Unity. And then finally, on the Unreal side, we're planning on having better support for what I call Unreal Asset Management features. For those of you that were at Unreal Fest, there was a very interesting talk about, once again, improving developer iteration workflows with Unreal, where they showcased everything they've been doing in the past years to improve iteration times. And that's essentially a checklist of what we need to hook into. So there won't be many like user-facing changes in the Unreal integration itself for asset management, but things that are available in Unreal will just work with Wwise. So Zen server, so that you can deploy builds on your consoles quicker. Modular game build, so that you can manage your DLC a lot easier. Multi-process cooking, so that you can leverage your 8 cores in your machine to cook your game. So all of that will just start working once you update to 24.1. We're also like every sprint we do in the integrations team, we grab a few gyms issues so that we keep on improving that solution. And we're also working on other goodness for, of course, whatever curveball Unreal or Unity throws our way.
Right there.
Yep.
That's great. The future looks bright. So on that note, let us know if you have questions about some of these integrations topics that we've covered today. We're out here doing hands-ons after launching Wwise 2023.1 last fall. If you've made it onto 23.1 or tuned in for any of the Wwise Worldwide Online Expo last fall, you know what's in the box. You've jumped into the What's New blog at audiokinetic.com. And meanwhile, we've been doing a series of live streams and blogs around the new features for spatial audio acoustics. So we've been talking about the revised aux-send model, reverb zones, reflect phasing mitigation, and soon continuous raycasting across our blogs. We've also had a couple of Wwise Up On Airs featuring hands-on with our reflect phasing mitigation features and reflect, as well as a getting started with Wwise spatial audio acoustics in Unreal. A great surface level introduction that provides a clear overview of what you need to really stand up spatial audio acoustics in Unreal and get that kind of realistic environmental propagation and filtering. So really cool stuff there. And moving on, we've got a hands-on with Bernard Rodrigue next week talking WAAPI and WAQL. That is our Wwise Authoring API and Wwise Authoring Query Language. These are a suite of tools that developers are using to extend their workflows using information about the Wwise project, and honestly, just supercharging the development with the WAAPI and WAQL tools that continue to be added to release over release. So tune in next week to get into what's new and how to get started. Bernard always does a great job, like the integrations team have today, of bringing you into where we're at and trying to provide a level of usability to what can be quite complex at times. So look forward to that next week, along with another in our series of Strata hands-ons with Chase Steele talking about the new collections for ambience warfare and ambience space stations. If you've tuned in any of these, Chase Steele takes us through the Reaper project for new Strata libraries, where we dig into tracks and unfold what comes as part of the Strata sound library multi-track library subscriptions, as well as going hands-on in Unreal, and where he has taken and applied the content from those libraries into these interactive and dynamic scenes. So we're right there with the integrations team making these things work. So that's what we have for you today. Thanks to folks out there in the chat. It's been great to have your questions. Thanks, Bernard, Victor. It's a gift to have your expertise as part of the Wwise Up on Air hands-on series.
Well, thank you. It's always good to show what we did to the community and get reactions like that. It's very cool.
Yeah. Folks coming to the live stream to really get a better understanding of what we're up to, and always a great thing to be able to feature the good work of developers at Audiokinetic and developers out there in the community using Wwise. So tune in later this year. We have some really cool Wwise developer Wwise Up on Airs coming soon, including one from the folks at Baldur's Gate 3 and Lariat Studios. So keep them peeled, and yeah, until then, stay wise. All right.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
again.